Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine while looking at an old photograph? What if I told you that some of the most unsettling images from our past weren't just accidental snapshots, but carefully crafted messages with a dark intent? Today, we're diving deep into the declassified files of 1962, a year teetering on the brink of global catastrophe, to uncover their hidden symbols and psychological operations that aim to manipulate the very soul of a nation. This isn't just about history, it's about the dark psyche, the hidden corners of the human mind that governments sought to weaponize. In 1962, the world held its breath during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But behind the public-facing political drama, a quieter, more insidious war was being waged, a war for your mind. Let's start with a seemingly innocent piece of propaganda from that era. Look at this poster. On the surface, it's a patriotic call to unity, but analysts now believe it's embedded with subliminal imagery designed to stoke fear and paranoia. Notice the way the shadows fall, the placement of the figures, the almost imperceptible symbols woven into the background. These weren't accidents. They were the work of a shadowy group of psychologists and artists, part of a clandestine program known as Project Mockingbird, which sought to control public opinion through media. Their primary tool was tapping into the collective unconscious, a concept popularized by Carl Jung. They understood that certain symbols, or archetypes, resonate deeply within us, bypassing our rational minds to trigger primal emotions. The serpent, the shadow, the broken mirror, these weren't just artistic motifs. They were psychological triggers. By embedding these symbols into mainstream media, from newsreels to advertisements, they could subtly steer the public's mood, making them more compliant, more fearful, or more aggressive, depending on the government's needs. One declassified document, file number 7B4, details an experiment called the Whispering Gallery. The objective was to create a sense of pervasive, unseen threat. Agents would subtly plant rumors and unsettling imagery within small communities. For instance, they'd use stencils to paint faint, strange symbols on sidewalks overnight, symbols that had no clear meaning but were designed to be just jarring enough to be noticed. Then, they would circulate whispers about their significance, linking them to foreign spies or subversive cults. The result? A palpable rise in community-wide anxiety. People started seeing threats where none existed. Neighbor turned against neighbor. The social fabric began to fray. This wasn't about catching spies. It was about controlling the population through fear, proving that a state of low-grade constant panic made people easier to manage. The experiment was terrifyingly successful. The symbols themselves were often drawn from ancient, forgotten folklore, reactivated to prey on deep-seated cultural anxieties. Think about the sheer psychological manipulation at play. It's one thing to be told who the enemy is. It's another thing entirely to have the feeling of an enemy imprinted directly onto your subconscious. This brings us to the concept of the manufactured shadow. In psychology, the shadow represents the dark, repressed parts of our own personality. This program aimed to project a collective, national shadow onto a designated enemy. They did this through carefully crafted news reports and films. For example, footage of enemy leaders would be subtly altered. The lighting would be made harsher. Their facial expressions would be frozen on unflattering frames, and low-frequency sounds, barely audible to the human ear, would be layered into the audio. These sounds were known to create feelings of unease and dread. Viewers wouldn't know why they felt a visceral hatred or fear towards these individuals. They just did. Their rational minds would then create a justification for this emotion, believing it was based on the leader's actions, not realizing the emotion itself was artificially implanted. The program was so sophisticated that it even used what they called symbolic dissonance. They would take a universally positive symbol, like a dove or a child's toy, and repeatedly associate it with a threat. Imagine seeing a news report about a national security threat, and in the corner of the screen, for just a fraction of a second, an image of a broken doll flashes. You might not even consciously register it, but your subconscious does. Over time, the sight of a doll could trigger a faint, inexplicable sense of anxiety. The goal was to destabilize the very symbols we rely on for comfort and safety, to create a world where nothing felt truly secure. One of the most chilling aspects of these declassified files is the Israelite Initiative. This was a deep-level psychological operation aimed not at the general public, but at key individuals, academics, and artists who were seen as influential but not easily controlled. Instead of direct threats, agents would use a technique called gaslighting by proxy. They would subtly alter the target's environment. A book in their study would be moved. A single, unfamiliar object, like a single black feather, would appear on their desk. Their notes would be slightly rearranged. These were small, deniable changes. When the target mentioned these odd occurrences, friends and colleagues, who were either unwitting or coerced, would dismiss their concerns, telling them they were just stressed or imagining things. Over months, this constant low-level assault on their perception of reality would cause the target to doubt their own sanity. Their work would suffer. Their credibility would crumble. They would effectively neutralize themselves without the government ever having to lay a hand on them. It was a psychological assassination, a way to silence dissent by making the dissenter believe they were going mad. The files contain cold, detached notes on the psychological decline of several prominent figures from that era, marking the success of the operation. So why was 1962 the flashpoint for these dark psychological games? The Cold War was at its peak. The threat of nuclear annihilation was very real. In this atmosphere of extreme tension, the boundaries of ethical behavior blurred. The thinking was that any method was justifiable if it gave one side an edge, even if it meant weaponizing the deepest, most vulnerable parts of the human mind. The dark psyche wasn't just a subject of study, it was a battleground. These programs were a testament to a terrifying truth. The most effective prison isn't made of steel bars, but of the walls you build inside your own mind. By manipulating symbols and preying on subconscious fears, they could lock you in a cage of anxiety and paranoia without you ever realizing you were a prisoner. And this isn't just a relic of the past. The techniques may have evolved, but the principles remain the same. Today, with social media algorithms and digital information warfare, the potential for this kind of mass psychological manipulation is greater than ever. The symbols may have changed from shadowy figures on posters to viral memes and deepfakes, but the intent to shape your thoughts and control your emotions is timeless. Looking back at 1962, we see a chilling blueprint. It teaches us to be critical of the information we consume, to be aware of how symbols and narratives can be used to evoke emotion, and to question the origins of our own strong feelings, especially fear and anger. Are they truly our own, or are they the result of a carefully crafted message? The declassified files of 1962 are a stark reminder that the greatest threats don't always come from bombs and missiles. Sometimes, they come as whispers, as fleeting images, as strange symbols in the periphery that slowly, silently, reprogram the very way we see the world. The war for your mind is real, and it never ended. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the hidden history of psychological warfare. If you found this fascinating and want to uncover more declassified secrets, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let me know in the comments what you think about these programs. Stay vigilant and always question what you see. Thanks for watching.